In this last hour, we've focused on Australia, the island continent, and we've had a particular focus on human health impacts where the cost of carbon is concerned. You know, Australia has long been in the firing line, so to speak, and we have seen in this summer just passed, of course the summers are different in the southern hemisphere, but the summer that spanned 2012-2013 saw 123 all-time records broken in Australia. First of all, with heat records that are really quite amazing, the levels of heat reached, and then rainfall records, and we'll look more at that in just a moment. Then there were flooding records that were also broken during the summer just passed in Australia. And the cost of carbon is particularly high in Australia. There were national records this past year for the hottest January, 7 days in a row above 39 degrees Celsius, the hottest day ever recorded, and the hottest summer ever recorded. And when you look at the year as a whole, from October 2012 until last month, Australia has just been through the hottest 12 months on record since records began. So these extreme events have been taking a toll in many ways, and the economic cost is only part of it. Incidentally, the weather forecasters in their national weather forecast had to add 2 new colors to the record, to the map, so that they could keep up with the rising record levels of temperature. You see that dark purple there. These 2 colors are completely new because we're in a new temperature regime now. And in this new regime, heat waves in Australia are now 5 times more likely because of man-made global warming. And as one of the panelists said, the focus is often on fires, and it's understandable, but the big killer is heat waves. To look at fire, what we have seen actually in the last few days and ongoing right now is that the fire danger level in New South Wales is at the catastrophic level. And we heard some of our excellent panelists, including my dear friend Don Henry, talking about this. They're right in the midst of this right now, and our prayers and our thoughts are with you in Australia. I know the folks in New South Wales are really worried about those 2 fires combining into a mega fire. And of course, we've been seeing these images come across in the news media. And it's a scary situation for many people whose homes are threatened, and many have already suffered losses, and our thoughts are with them as well. Over 2.25 million acres and 900,000 hectares were burned during this fire season already. And as others said during the panel, this recalls the famous Black Saturday fires 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, when there was on February 7th an awful event. It was actually for several days, and this iconic image went around the world. Many homes were lost, lots of property lost, and most tragically, lots and lots of people were killed. Now, we also saw some video about the Bundaberg floods in Queensland, which have been ongoing. And then a few years ago, there was yet another one in Bundaberg. This comes about because of these extreme rainfall events. Here are the records broken this year for rainfall. You see right across all of these locations in Australia, the all-time record has been broken this year. Now, this is because, of course, due to man-made global warming, there is now 4% more water vapor in the atmosphere than there was just 30 years ago. The warmer oceans are putting more up there, and the warmer air holds more moisture. And it's not just 4% directly above where the rain falls. You know, if you have a bathtub full of water and you pull the drain, the water rushing down the drain obviously is not coming just from the part of the tub directly above the drain. It's coming from the whole tub. And there are these enormous basins of water vapor in the air that reach out often 2,000 kilometers and are funneled inward toward the drain. The drain being, in this case, the rainstorms, the storms that open up in the conditions that cause a downpour. So we're getting these record rainfalls, and they result in record flood events in many parts of Australia. Here is an example in Queensland, in Yeppoon, almost 22 inches of rain, 557 millimeters in 48 hours. Can you imagine almost 2 feet of rain in 48 hours? Well, that's the kind of unusual event that has become all too common in Australia. Over the last several years, we have seen these incredible flood events, many of them in Queensland. Rockhampton was hit very hard. Here are some before and after pictures of a flood event recently in Australia. A nice, calm, peaceful neighborhood, and then after the flood, real devastation. We see neighborhoods inundated by flooding, and again, we've heard from these people who've lost their homes and livelihoods. It is a terrible tragedy for the people that are affected by these devastating events. This is some home video shot by an Australian just catching this van being washed down the street by the incredible flood waters there. The rescuers are so courageous. This was last year in North Wagga Wagga, Australia. 9,000 people evacuated during this flood event. There are health risks from floods, and many of them are obvious and known, but it also relates to mosquito-borne diseases. And we've talked in this hour about the health impacts, and these vectors for infectious diseases, mosquitoes and rodents and ticks and the rest, they expand their range in a warmer world. Mosquitoes, for example, move to higher elevations. Some 30 so-called new diseases have emerged in the last 4 decades. Many of them are not new, but they're new in the areas they're now affecting. And some old diseases are resurgent, like dengue fever, for example. These tropical diseases are now spreading, not only because of global warming, because the impact of vast population movements during and after World War II and World War I before that had an impact, but a warmer world shifts the balance toward microbes and away from the defenses that colder nights and frost have given many populations against microbes and diseases. And now in many areas, India for example, dengue fever is a major, major threat once again. 37 million infections each year. Allergies and asthma, ragweed pollen, the season now is almost a month longer than it was just 20 years ago. And here, this is from North America, but it's true in much of the world, these statistics. This number, 8,500, has already gone up by 2,000, and it's going to triple again in the next 2.5 decades because of global warming. Now, in Australia, the species that are affected include the iconic koala, the duck-billed platypus, and this is part of a global story that has the biologists telling us we're facing a mass extinction event 100 times faster than we thought. Amphibians, including some in Australia, are kind of like the proverbial canary in the coal mine. They've been around for about 250 million years, and now they're really in trouble on every continent. So species extinction, wildfires, floods, mudslides, droughts, storm damage, the Great Coral Reef, the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, all of these are costs of carbon. Now, luckily, Australia is one of those that has put a price on carbon. They have a choice to make on whether or not to keep it. I hope that Australia will continue its leadership, as we have seen with solar and wind, and the leadership toward a policy that will help preserve the future. We're counting on you to do the right thing, Australia. Let's put a price on carbon.